Welcome to the Peer Effect Postbag. I'm James Johnson, joined by Freddie Burley. We ask for your questions, and Freddie and I are going to tackle them together. These aren't theoretical case studies, it's the stuff keeping you up at 2 a.m. Let's get answering. Welcome to the Peer Effect Postbag. This is where we answer your questions. I'm James Johnson.
I'm Freddie Burley.
So Freddie, what have you been up to this week?
What have I been up to this week? Well, I became an auntie.
Congratulations.
I know, actually so exciting. And really, really surreal. I never really had many babies in the family growing up. And so meeting my nephew is just honestly almost like, it's just the most surreal experience in the world, seeing my brother become a dad and seeing my brother's face in this tiny, tiny human when he just arrived and being able to hold him. And it's just, honestly, it's been magic. It's been absolute magic. So I feel, it's really rare in life that you have a moment that makes you genuinely change so much of how you see the world. And I feel like meeting Monty, my brother's baby, was one of those moments where I was like, gosh, this just puts so much into perspective around what's important and just watching a whole family come together around the baby as well. And it's kind of a new generation because Lucas is the first baby, and it suddenly makes me feel like a grown-up adult. I know I'm 33, so I am in theory an adult. But there's something about being someone's auntie, and I'm going to be the role that it's kind of like, wow, very cool.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I really think they do bring families together. It gives families a reason for being. It's like the next generation just pulls everyone. Suddenly it gives you a topic that you can talk about endlessly.
Totally. And that they need you, right? You want to be involved and around in their lives. And I think when everyone's adults and has their own lives, it can be quite easy to, there's not obviously birthdays and Christmases and things and natural gathering points, but suddenly when there's a tiny human around, they need help all the time. So there's always an excuse to hang out, which is amazing.
Have you got a list of things you want to do with him or sort of get him?
Honestly, I'm very excited about the clothes, to be frank. I love outfits, especially small outfits. And there's a part of me that really wants to coordinate my outfits with his, which I think will be a bit too much for my poor brother's wife. So
not at all.
Mainly excited about the outfits, also excited about, honestly, just knowing his personality. I'm like, who are you, you small human? What's going on in there? And he has very wise eyes. So, yeah. Lots of fun to be had.
At some future stage, I've got to see a coordination outfit.
Oh, for sure. I will bring it in. I've already got a mood board going. So, yeah. So fun. So, in other news, a question from Ben this week. How do you stabilize teams when nothing is certain?
I mean, that feels pretty much where we are in the world at the moment.
Yeah.
But it's weird. I think it feels like where we are, but it also feels like where we've been. We've actually been through a lot of change. I mean, we had COVID not too long ago, although you're bringing it back.
Exactly. Patient zero over here.
But I remember times in my career, where you go somewhere and I went to Philippines and it was quite an unstable time. And you read the newspaper, oh my God, everything's just going to fall apart. There were two military lockdowns while I was there in the first 6 months. You're like,
wow.
But actually life goes on. I think we see this time and again, life just does go on. But I think it makes it hard as a leader when you don't have that certainty. I think you never truly have certainty, but you often feel like you have a sense of what the economic environment's going to be like, where the direction of travel is. But certain things do come along, like AI, like COVID, which just kind of almost upset the whole board and go, I genuinely have no idea what everything's going to look like in a year's time. And I think that can be quite hard because I think our teams like to have certainty or the illusion of control. I think as human beings, the bureaucrats that control everything, it's comforting to think that someone has a grand plan somewhere, although my experience of life is that people rarely do.
100%.
But I think in this case, the one thing that you can do, and I would say the same thing applied during COVID, is just give certainty around, increase your consistency of communication or increase the frequency of your communication and be clear, what you will do in response to what. So I don't think you can give sort of clarifying, I will be doing this, we will be doing this, because you can't reason without certainty. And I think you can be explicit in that. I cannot give you certainty on these things because that is not what the environment is allowing us to do at the moment. But what I can tell you is we will stick to our principles. We will do, like, if this happens, we will do this. As much as possible, we will protect, like, jobs. So I think you can come back to principles and be explicit that you're not, but just keep that message of communication. Because I think particularly then when times are changing a lot, people assume they haven't heard something has changed. So even if nothing has changed in your thinking, it's still helpful just to say, nothing has changed in my thinking.
Yes.
Nothing has changed in my thinking.
Yes.
Because that's quite reassuring as well.
It's so true. And people just want someone to tell them that everything's going to be okay. And also people know that in change, being clear about what we do and don't know. And the don't knows are often like the outputs. Like we don't know what the outcome's going to be in the outputs. The things that we do know is if we behave in this certain way, or if we focus on these things, it's going to increase our likelihood of being successful in this really challenging time. And so like, how do you anchor people back into, how do we show up to this challenge in the best possible way? How do we like rely and lean on each other? What kind of mode of operating happens in like crisis scenarios that actually increases the likelihood of outcome? Exactly as you said, like rhythm of communication, increasing the frequency of that so that people feel tapped in and connected to what they can't yet see yet, but they want to feel. And if they can't see safety yet, or they can't see the outcome that they're looking for, but they feel the sense of connection and commitment from the team, people can feel really in sync.
And I think people could also, I think the first gift is to try and nudge people out of denial, because I think some people do get stuck, and I saw this during COVID, some people get stuck and think, I don't want things to change. I was like, well, I understand that. Like, I don't want it either.
Yeah.
But they've changed. Like, these responses we're making as an organization are not happening out of nowhere. They are in response to something that is changing. Like, you might want to still work in the office. You can't work in the office. Like, you may still want to receive full pay, but our company is receiving like 20% of its revenue that it was a month ago. Like, yes, you don't want to change, but like, I cannot allow you to live in this denial bubble because it will impact other things. So I think 100%. That's quite powerful as well.
It's so true. And what's that quote of like, the only thing that's certain in life is change. And also all growth happens in change. And often when people are attached to a lack of change in any circumstance, whether it was like a crisis or even if we weren't going through this AI revolution, all growth exists in change. And so as human beings, if we want to evolve and if we want to keep adapting, we have to change. Yeah. And I think also it's almost like people get, if you think about like a lobster analogy, sometimes people get overly attached to their shell and they forget that actually they'd outgrown it already and they need to let go of it in order for a new shell to form that they can grow into. And again, in change, leaders being connected to the purpose of change and how this is going to benefit everyone. And I think that's also really important to speak to.
Yeah, I do think sometimes we can forget how painful change can be, because often we're the ones that are instigating it. And actually having change done to you is a lot less comfortable.
Yeah, because it feels like everything's out of your control. And so people feel, this is so true.
And I think it's acknowledging that as well, that people aren't necessarily fighting back against something out of maliciousness or thing. They just genuinely, it may have personal impacts. For example, if let's go back to COVID example, if suddenly your income drops by 20%, for a lot of people, they don't have 20% room in their earnings to cover their outgoings.
Yes.
So there is a real fear attached to that change, and practically it might not work for them. So it is almost kind of rational to try and push back against that change and see, okay, if I push back against enough, maybe you or the company will absorb it on my behalf because I don't think I can. And that's not necessarily a bad strategy, given your real life realities.
Yes.
It just makes it very hard as a leader, because then you're sort of going, well, I can't.
Yeah.
What if I do for you, then I'm going to have to do it for everyone else, or I will do it for you and I won't do it for everyone else.
Yeah.
And that actually is going to cause me a much bigger problem. So I think then as a leader, you need to be quite strong and go, I feel your pain, I understand your pain, but I need to be fair to everyone.
Yeah, and the sustainability of the business is, if I compromise this for you now in the short term, then the long term, the business might not work out at all, and then we'll all be out of a job. And so like that balance between fulfilling what people desire and need, and also holding your responsibilities for the long term as well in the same breath. And it's tough. It's really, really tough. But again, if you have a relationship with your team that is transparent and is based on trust, then this is when I think crises is when reality comes to the surface often. And if there were big cracks or a lack of trust in the team before the crisis, you'll be sure that there'll be absolute chaos when a crisis ensues, because you don't have those foundations. You don't have that like bed or that rock of trusting your leader to do the right thing for the team and the company, not just the company at the cost of the team. And so I also think in this time or in change, that the characteristics or like the good behaviors get really rewarded.
Yeah. And I also think if you've mollycoddled your team and not shared any bad news ever before, you hide all the bad news, that really comes home to roost, you say, when in a bad time, because they're just not used to receiving anything other than positivity.
Yeah.
Which I think is dangerous. Whereas you go, if you're being transparent, this is working, this is not working. In many cases, you say, in change times comes growth. If they can respond to it calmly because they've received bad news from you before, actually they're much quicker to shift into solution mode and go, okay, where is the growth here? Where is the change? Where is the opportunity? Like, can be quite energizing once a team all together make that step and go, okay, let's acknowledge where we are. You've got a good team. There's a lot of good ideas, a lot of good energy. And actually it can be super, like that kind of high intensity, deadline based, we were all in this together.
Yes.
Can be really rewarding and really bring a team together.
Yeah, 100%. That's such a good point, because I think sometimes, especially in startup life, people want to avoid challenge, or they want to avoid what's not working and just focus on what is working. And there can be this anxiety around, let's just focus on the positives, but also that prevents people from feeling there's like a maturity to being aware of reality and aware of, and I think it also gets the team into problem solving mode as opposed to sort of fantasy mode. So yeah, I think that's a great point. Yeah, that's a really good point.
I think startups as a whole generally are are only 6-12 months away from crisis anyway. Like you go through fundraising rounds, to a degree you're on the clock from the moment you close your round. Like I think it's good for people in these businesses to all understand that reality and not feel like
distracted from it.
We're nine months before we need to fundraise again.
Yeah.
That's not necessarily a crisis. That is a built-in feature of being in a startup. And if people are in there and don't understand that reality, and you feel like you can't have that conversation with the team, I would question like sort of what conversations you do feel comfortable having with your team.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, so in summary, stabilizing teams when nothing is certain. What am I taking away? I feel like I'm taking a lot from this. A lot around how leaders anchor themselves and around how they stay in reality themselves, how they communicate that more frequently than in other periods or periods of crises. How you rely on each other, and in a crisis as well, how you stabilize is like, this is the reality. How do we all work together to solve these challenges? What are you taking away? What are the things that you're left with?
I just really like to point out this is like a continuation of previous good behaviors. Like part of your role as a leader is to prepare your team for times when things are not as good. And therefore, if you have done that, then in these times, it's actually a lot easier. So I think that's a lesson to take forward, even post this AI change, is just what is the culture that you want? And a sort of a more mature, problem-solving, able to hear bad news culture pays dividends in bad times, but probably also pays dividends in good times because you can have harder conversations. So I really like that. Yeah, amazing. Cool. Well, that's it for today then, and we will see you guys next week for another episode. In the meantime, happy scaling.